one of the big things that you always worry about come this type of season or this time of the season when you're preparing, especially for a big game like Georgia coming up. You're trying to be physical. You're trying to get ready for a really big college football season, and you have to kind of fight that injury bug, right? Now, this is something that the Clemson Tigers have been well versed in, especially in these past 3 years, where our program's kind of taken a step back, if you will, from the prominence that we were at with the 6 college football playoff runs and all that kind of stuff. We really have been bitten by the injury bug quite a bit these past 3 seasons, mainly on the receiver part of the field. So let's get a quick fall camp injury update, if you will, Jordan. Who we got in green jerseys? I know if I do remember correctly, we only started fall camp with 2 green jerseys. Nobody in yellow, just 2 guys in green. Green obviously means that they are very close to working back to full speed. Yellow, they're a little bit more limited, so on and so forth, right? So do we have anybody in yellow jerseys? Because that wouldn't be a good thing. And then 2, how many people do we have in green jerseys right now? And what are they looking like? And who are those individuals?
Yeah, so the new green jerseys kind of showed themselves during the Wednesday portion of their Derby Meadows, their yearly Derby Meadows. I don't want to say retreat because it's right there, but that it's kind of a camp within itself. As Cole Turner was one of the guys that popped up in green. He's been recovering from shoulder surgery and he is working his way back, and he was full go just this past week. And I think during the Wednesday scrimmage he was seen in a green jersey, so that was surprising a little bit. Still not clear what he's dealing with. But Jake Brittingstool and Cade Denhoff as well were in green jerseys. So, something to monitor there. Not anything serious, as we've talked about. It's definitely it's not yellow, where we're like, okay, now we have to have a conversation. Nothing serious so far, and I think that's the good thing. I mean, you're going to have guys that get banged up during camp from here to here, but things on the injury front still seem to be relatively mild, knocking on wood, if you can hear that. So that's a good thing. I mentioned Cade Denhoff and Jake Brittingstool. So those were the new guys, and we'll kind of see what kind of develops. They had yes, Jaden Lucas is still in green as well.
So we got Lucas, Burley, Denhoff, and Brittingstool.
Yes.
4 guys in green jerseys.
Correct.
Which, to this point in camp, not too terribly bad, right? You mentioned that they are only in green jerseys. We still don't have any players in yellow jerseys, which is probably something that would be a little bit more long-term, a little bit more physically limiting for those players. So obviously, some of these green jerseys could just be precautionary. Maybe they tweak something a little bit. Maybe they're, feeling a little bit more muscle soreness than maybe the trainers would like. So they're pulling back, right? Especially with a guy like Brittingstool. You would think a guy like that, we've heard the reports of him coming in from summer workouts. I mean, he just looks different, right? And you can tell by his weigh-in, his body is in a very different place than it was this time last year, which is really exciting as a Clemson fan. But sometimes when you get on the field with that new added weight, sometimes things can, get a little sore, get a little off balanced, and, the trainer's got to work through those things. So hopefully it's something very easy like that and nothing big to worry about. No key real injuries. This is always the time where you hear of players, having some sort of catastrophic injury, and we've avoided that to this point. Again, Jordan, knock on wood. Let's keep that going.
Especially with the scrimmage that's coming up tomorrow. Well, let's hope for good health.
Ronald Birkin says, what was Brittingstool's weight? He was up in the 240 range, like 243, I think he was.
Yeah.
somewhere
He
in there.
played I believe he played at 230 last year, something
Yeah,
like that.
so he put on about 10, 15 pounds over the off season, which is really good for him. It's really good for his frame. He can definitely handle it with the size frame that he has. No worries there with the weight that he put on. That was just a thought that popped in my mind. Sometimes when you put on, more muscle mass, things get a little weird there sometimes. But hopefully we're working through all those injury situations. Nothing big to report yet. Receivers still looking pretty healthy. As far as we can tell now, nobody
Other than Cole Turner, yeah.
Cole Turner, yeah.
Yeah.
Cole Turner. Just I don't know. I hate it because it just seems like, I don't want to say like I hear Cole Turner's in a green jersey. It's like, oh yeah, of course he is. But that's kind of like, that's kind of what you feel when you hear that name and it's, back in some sort of injury capacity. But again, hopefully it's nothing too.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like it just, and I think it's frustrating with me, like with Cole Turner, because he's a guy that definitely needs the reps. I mean, he is a junior now, but again, he came into Clemson having not really played the receiver position, and he's been learning.
Right.
And obviously missing a ton, basically all of last year. Like you wanted him to be able to have a healthy fall camp in order to factor more into this wide receiver rotation. We'll see. Again, it's a green jersey, so it means that it's not, they think he'll be back pretty soon. But, he's a guy like you want to be able to get, those reps in. He's the fastest player on the team, according to anybody you ask, which is
right.
Like, sometimes it kind of gives more credence to it because, sometimes, they'll have, they'll ask those questions like for anybody's team, they'll ask those questions like who's the fastest on the team. And like sometimes they'll get different answers, but it's like Cole Turner is unanimously like,
right.
It's like when you ask, it's like who's the fastest player on the team? Cole. No hesitation, neither.
No hesitation, yeah.
When you ask the offensive players and the defensive players, so it's like, I mean, he's a guy you want to be able to get on the field if possible, because I do think he has some utility in this offense, especially as a deep threat. So I want to see him get back, because I mean he needs it for his development. He does. It's good that he had the in a way it's good, with how last season went because he did get the red shirt, so that should help a little bit. But you still want him to get those reps.
It definitely still stunts the growth, as a guy that hasn't played a ton at the position. Not being out on the field, not getting those reps, it definitely affects you. You can only do so many mental reps. Eventually, you just got to get out there and do it. So, hopefully he's working back to a little bit better. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Maybe just tweak something. Or again, these green jerseys could be precautionary. They're not going to tell us really what's going on. I know, for instance, Vic Burley, he's been in a green jersey since camp started, right? I read some reports early on at camp. He was grabbing at his knee. Maybe that has something to do with his green jersey. I'm not really sure. And again, they're not really going to tell us what's going on with these guys, but he has been in a green jersey since the beginning of fall camp. So
and you mentioned Vic, and that's another guy. It's like you hate to hear that because it's like, man, you want him to get those reps because he's already behind because he missed all of last season, but he's going to be so like the talent is obvious and from anybody that talks about him, and you just want him with the same thing, but honestly in a bigger degree than Cole because Vic is just. He came in like physically ready to play. Like he could have gotten on the field last year if if he didn't tear his ACL.
And the coaches made it very known last year that he was going to play had he not been injured. So
and so he's a guy. He's like you want to see him get out there on the field, but I think the good thing is you have a boatload of depth at defensive tackle, and it's not the end of the world if he doesn't, work his way back super quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the one position where you can afford, albeit as crazy as that sounds, you can afford to, almost lose a year of a guy like Vic Burley.
Right, and and the crazy thing is you lost two guys to the NFL draft.
Right, and you lost two guys out of that room to the NFL draft, but you still got DeMonte Capehart and Peyton Page and Trey Williams, the Filing Green, and I mean the list just goes on in that room, and it's absolutely insane. But pretty good, I think, from an injury standpoint. I think as a Clemson Tiger right now, you can sit back at this point in fall camp. Obviously, we got the big scrimmage happening in the Valley tomorrow, so hopefully that goes off without a hitch. Hopefully both sides of the ball play well. You don't really want one side dominating one or the other because usually that means a bad thing for the other side, right? So that's the unfortunate part of scrimmaging yourself. If one side really wins the day, that means one part of your team didn't play well. That's just par for the course when it comes to fall camp and things like that. But looking forward to hearing some of the news coming out of the spring practice, or excuse me, the big scrimmage tomorrow in the Valley. See where we're at to this point in time of camp. See who's kind of pulling themselves away and who's kind of solidifying themselves in a little bit more guaranteed role. So not too terribly bad news as far as the injury update. I think as best as we could.
Much better than last year. Right now.
Better than last year. At this point last year, I don't even know how many people we had in multicolored jerseys. They weren't just green jerseys. We had a bunch of people in yellow and all sorts of stuff. So only 4 guys in green jerseys to this point in fall camp that we know of so far. So hopefully that number reduces and we don't get anybody hurt in any serious way as camp goes on. So